But yeah, if you're down to go, let's go. We got David here.
And see him, but
I see his name. Let's see.
I see his name.
There he is. I see his lovely shining face. Tom, how do you say your last name?
Van der Scheun.
How about now? I'm not. Yeah.
Yes, David, I can hear you.
Okay, good. My Yankee tongue cannot say that.
No, that's what I thought. That's
It's still, that's amazing. That just like washes right one ear
like
through the other. We don't do that here. So,
no.
Well, Tom, you want me to just introduce you as the owner of Modelauto, or?
Yeah, Tom's Modelautos. Yeah.
David, did you get Tom's last name?
I did not.
Oh boy, you try it.
Let me try it after the interview, so that I don't make you angry and leave.
I'm just like, nope. That's there is no way I can say that and not be insulting. I don't even think I can say the name of the city you're in. Purmerend.
Yeah, but that's the city where the shop is in. Correct.
Okay. So, okay. Well, at least I got that much. We can work with that. So, all right. Well, we are going to just kind of dive in here and have a chat. Okay.
You're watching Diecast Breakdown with Chuck Ellis, David Johns, and Mark McHotwheel. So sit back, strap in, and hang on. The breakdown starts now.
Hey there, folks. Chuck here, and welcome to a special edition of our new format of Diecast Breakdown, where we jump straight to the interview, and we've got a really special guest for our first version of this new show. So Tom is kind of a legend in not just European diecast, but the diecast in general, and we're going to find out more why. If you don't know Tom, and I would love to say his last name, but I have tried repeatedly. He has generously offered to teach me his last name, and I'm just, it's not working for me today. So I'm going to let Tom do that. But before we get too far, you may have heard of Tom's Modelauto diecast store from the likes of Chasing Diecast Cars and a Diecast Dude. And of course, our own Mr. David Johns has referred to Tom's Modelauto quite a few times on this show. So Tom, thank you so much for being here. Tom's shop is located in the Netherlands in Purmerend. I think
yes, correct.
All right. Hey, I got one. And so Tom, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know David has been, since we started this show, champing at the bit to interview you. And when we were talking to Diecast Dude, he was like, "You've got to talk to Tom. This place we've seen his videos. Your shop is incredible." So, David, I'm going to give the first question over to you because I know you've been waiting for this moment for quite a long time. So, David, take it away.
Really, it's a pleasure, and thank you, Chuck, for that. Tom, I appreciate you taking out some time of your busy day. You get to go to work at a place that a lot of us would dream that we could work at. Tom's Modelauto, or correct me if I say it incorrectly, Tom's Modelautos, is that the official name of the store?
It's the name a customer of mine told me to use like in 1993. Yep. So it's Tom's Modelautos. And at that time, I put on online the website toms.nl.
Yep.
Many companies has tried to buy it from me because it's nice and short, but it's still ours, and still doing well. And like you said, with a big store now.
Let's talk about the store a little bit, because I was introduced to your store from some Diecast Dude peg hunting videos, and it just goes on and on and on. A collector of diecast cars of any scale can find what they're looking for at your store. Would you say that's safe to say?
I think that's safe to say. We try to have a little bit or a lot to all the brands, all the famous brands. Not 100%, but I think we've covered 90% of of the collection, especially the diecast. Some of the plastic kits, we are missing some of the plastic kits, and some of the non-licensed 164 Chinese manufacturers.
Yep.
We
Sure.
don't carry that stuff because we have customs, and we have rules, so we cannot import everything all the time. So I think 90% is covered.
So is your store the biggest diecast store in the world?
That's, people are asking me this question when they come to the store. They walk up to the stairs, the same as the diecast dude. He filmed it when it was opened like a month.
Yep.
Famous video. He filmed it, and then he went to the left, he went to the right, and then he walked to the right. And there's another area where you can find more 164. And I think I've been all over the world, but normally it's a mixed store, like a radio control,
Right.
or trains, and with radio or toys, and with all the major Lego sets and RC. Then you have much bigger stores. But in diecast and plastic and for collectors, I think it's one of the biggest. Yes.
It's really, and Chuck knows this as well. It is such a treat to watch these videos where customers come in or content creators come in and just show it's amazing to see how much diecast really is out there. If you just shop in your local stores or your grocery store, you never know how many brands are out there doing diecast. As I'm curious about the store, can you just tell us a little bit, maybe a brief recap of how the store came into existence?
Now, like I said, I started in 92. Not as a collector, as many people think. I was just doing my thing. I was 19-year-old, and I was selling some Burago. I thought, that's interesting, Buragos. In Europe, it was huge.
Right.
So for 5 to 10 years, it was all Burago. And then automatically you try other brands, Revell, Maisto. The most brands are still there. A lot of brands are not there anymore. And then slowly you do flea markets, shows, car shows. All over Europe, we have been to car shows with the whole family, with friends. England, big car shows with 12,000 cars in Sweden.
Yep.
And then, people always ask you, where can I buy? Where can I find you? And then slowly you start in the barn. You rent a place gets bigger. You import your first container. And so on and on. And this is my 5th building now. So, and I think this is the final end station, no more bigger. But it's funny because we bought the building for the wholesale, for the 3 companies we have. And then I thought, but it's a nice store. The first floor is nice. If we empty everything, we're going to have a big space. But I didn't know it was this big. And then we needed to fill it up. And I thought, we never get this filled. Oh, what are we going to do?
Right.
But after 1 month, it was full. So it worked out
Yep.
perfectly. And now it's getting more and more famous. And I like it. I like it that people like it. I like it. It's important to have a store where you can visit and touch. And as an importer, I'm 90% an importer for diecast and for a lot of brands in Europe. And as an importer, it's good to have stores. It's not all online. It's you need emotion. You need to feel and touch at the flea market or car shows, and also real brick stores.
Mhm.
Yep. No, it's a great thing to have.
It's absolutely true, because especially with things, when you get to the 164 scale and the 187 scale cars, when you photograph them, they usually look so much bigger than they actually are, and they don't look, you see all the imperfections and stuff of the casting, but if you see them in person, they always look so much better, because that's how they're designed to be seen. They're designed to be seen by a human eye, not seen by a close-up camera that shows you every bit of the casting and the lines and the where the paint might not be 100% perfect. And so I think that was a big thing for me. I got out of the collecting hobby for a little bit, but it wasn't until I blame Greenlight for, and we'll get to them in a little bit, getting me back into collecting, because I was going through a hobby store, and I found I think it was the Mercury Grand Marquis wagon, like an 85 Grand Marquis wagon from Greenlight. And I was like, wow, I remember when everybody's grandfather had these and everyone's parents had these. I can't believe somebody actually made this car, and it looks beautiful in person. And I bought it, and the rest is history. And thousands of cars later, and many of them Greenlights, which again we'll get to in a little bit, because right now we're talking about the store. But there's a connection there that we'll get to in a bit.
We'll be back with more Diecast Breakdown after this word from our sponsors. Here's this week's small channel shoutout.
Charles Diecast Garage.
If you have a favorite Diecast channel with less than 700 subscribers and you'd like to see them highlighted on a future episode, email us at diecastbreakdown@gmail.com. The Diecast Media Network store is here. Wear your passion with pride, featuring designs from Diecast Breakdown, flying Valiant builds, plus unique designs inspired by diecast culture from Justin Ellis. Visit tpublic.com/Diecast Media Network now.
Hey, this is Champion DJK, and you're watching Diecast Breakdown.
And now back to Diecast Breakdown.
I had the question because a lot of us come into this hobby and they come into it hot and heavy, and we gather a lot of cars together, and it's very easy for it to become an obsession. And we were talking earlier, and you had an interesting method for kind of separating the diecasts from your regular life. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about that. How do you maintain that balance of not letting a hobby or a in this case a business that's also something that you're really into consume you?
Nah. It's not easy. It's not easy to separate the business and what you do on a day-to-day basis, because I love what I'm doing, but I do everything with my laptop and at home. And when I close my laptop, it's done. Yeah, we do it 24/7, and you wake up with it, you go to bed with it at 11 o'clock. Oh, let me finish this email, or I think about this or that. But at home, I have no cars. My wife tells me, no, at home, there's no cars, no collections, only you open your laptop, it's work, but when we close it, it's private. So I have everything in the warehouse, in the store, in my office, and that's where it's supposed to be, because otherwise the house is full. There's so many nice cars.
Sure.
In the last 20 years. So also some of the cars I received is in my glass wall when you enter the showroom or the building. So I keep it there or in the office, but not at home.
Well, and I think that's really cool too, because I mean, part of the fun of the hobby is sharing it with other people, and so if you have them there, you can have other people see it and talk to them about it. But that's an interesting. It's something I've struggled with for sure, because it could very easily, like, every now and then the decor in our house starts to skew towards, why are there so many diecast cars on the shelf, Chuck? Oh, right, yeah, I'll move those back to the workshop area. So it's something that we've talked about a lot on this show. David actually has gone through, and I won't steal too much of David's story, but he went through kind of a process where he really had to streamline his collection, because it's very easy when they're this small, and it's just, well, this little bit here, and the next thing you know, you've got like 10,000 cars in your collection, or you're collecting more than you're selling, or you're letting the hobby side take over. So that's something that I think about a lot, especially with your kind of profession, where you have a job that is a dream job for so many of our viewers and listeners. But at the same time, it would be like having a very strong sweet tooth and working in a bakery. It's very hard to not take the product home with you.
But the funny thing is, for me, I am an enthusiastic, but I'm not a collector. So I'm a buyer. And the good thing for me as you are collectors maybe, and I'm a buyer, and I don't collect. But the good thing for me as a buyer, I can sell it. So my house doesn't get full. My warehouse is full, but I'm still trying to sell. So the warehouse doesn't get full. So for me, is the kick, same as for you, is the buying. Same for me, but I also sell a lot. So that's maybe the bonus.
You've got the balance, yes.
I've got the balance, yes.
Yeah. So
but still full warehouse.
Oh yeah. So I'm just curious, what's the day in the life like for Tom when you're running the store? What is a typical work day like for you?
Yeah, but I only do the store on Saturdays.
Okay.
So I'm only in the store normally on Saturdays, and when the guys are on holidays, when we are with around 15 people,
Mm-hmm.
1.5.
Wow.
90% is downstairs. And 95% is downstairs these days. So upstairs, when I wake up, normally it's laptop. It's emails, buying, checking the orders. What do we need? When do we need a new container? Dealing with Hot Wheels, for example, for the whole year is a few hours a week.
Wow.
To get the good. It's the bigger the company, you can fill it in yourself. The bigger the company,
more bureaucracy,
more people involved. It's finance, it's marketing, it's planning. It's always a problem, and every year we have the problem of deleted dashes. I don't get a dash pre-sold, and then they ask you, but we can send you other stock. No. I want the stock which I haven't received yet. I don't need the same stock, but they don't always get it. So that's my day-to-day, trying to buy as much as possible and create new ideas, making stuff, especially when we had Greenlight. Yeah. So
Can I ask
my day-to-day?
Let me ask you this, Tom. Think about the mindset of American collectors. When we go to our stores, we see Greenlight, we see the American brands, we see Hot Wheels and Matchbox, of course. What are some brands that European collectors enjoy that maybe American collectors who have never seen them might be interested in?
Don't you have Schouun?
Sort of
limited. Yeah,
sort of.
You have to buy it.
Yeah,
you have to order it online and pay some shipping. But that's a great brand, and that's what we want to do with this question. Is
do you have Spark?
Yep, we
do
another good one.
Schouun, they make someone. Of course, you have Mini GT. You have Tarmac, probably.
Sort of. Yeah. Again, that's kind of a trickier one. You usually have to order that one from an online catalog. But yes, Tarmac is accessible in the United States.
ERA, ERA.
Sure. Yep.
BM Creations.
And I want, the reason I ask is I want collectors who watch this episode later to hear from someone who orders them and sells them because people like them in Europe. And I want American collectors to go check them out because the world makes a lot of good diecast. Frankly, a lot more detailed than Hot Wheels and Matchbox. So if you're inclined to check into some of it, go back and listen to the brands that Tom just mentioned because there's some amazing companies out there.
Yeah, correct. But the world is a small place these days.
You got that right.
It is. It's getting easier. Like the import stuff, like one brand that David's always bringing up, and it is genuinely hard to get over here is Bianti, the Australian one. And that's one that is slowly starting to show up more and more on enthusiast channels as they talk about that sort of thing. But David's been leading the charge on Bianti for a while now. So
which scale is that, David? Is it 118, 143rd, or 164?
What 164?
Bianti, yeah, they do 164. Now, the original company Bianti, Tom, was about 20 years ago in Western Australia. They made highly detailed Ford and Holden vehicles from Australia. Right.
I sold the brand.
Yep. So they seem to be doing more racing, and they do them in different scales as well. They do some 143rd as well.
Don't touch that dial. Diecast Breakdown will be right back after these messages.
This episode of Diecast Breakdown is brought to you by you. That's right. We are 100% viewer and listener supported, and we are so grateful for those of you who have already supported the podcast and the shows we're planning to add to the Diecast Media Network family. You can find out more about how to support this project by visiting diecastmedianetwork.com or email us about sponsoring an episode at diecastbreakdown@gmail.com. The best way you can support what we're doing right now, though, is to subscribe and share these episodes with your family, friends, and Facebook groups. Anyone you think would enjoy what we're doing. Any extra attention we can get early on will go a huge way in helping this project grow. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with us.
Hello, this is Diecast Dude from the Netherlands, and you are watching Diecast Breakdown.
This presentation of Diecast Breakdown is brought to you by Twice Diecast and Dots and Man Diecast on YouTube. Please visit their links in the show notes and subscribe to their channels for more epic Diecast content.
Alright guys, it's Mad Vision here. You guys are watching Diecast Breakdown.
And now, the thrilling conclusion of this week's episode of Diecast Breakdown.
Okay.
So as we talk about some of these brands that have come and gone, just as a shop owner who has watched some of these brands appear and then disappear, what are your thoughts on the direction of the hobby of diecast collecting? Is it getting better? Is it stagnating? What are your thoughts?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. It was when at the start, I needed to fly to Hong Kong. I needed to fly to New York Toys. And I was famous for American brands because I was importing a container a month from America, all the American brands, then Hong Kong Toy Fair. So, but now in the last 10 years, like I said, the world is a smaller place. Shipping costs went down a lot. Lately, the last few years, shipping is going up and up again. Sometimes for us, that's a good thing. Not for collectors, but for us as importers, because otherwise you get all these gray areas of importing, people who don't pay taxes. But these days, everything is going online. You have so many Facebook groups, so many groups for Hot Wheels, so many 3-inch, 164. You have so many groups for so many things, stamps, and everybody's collecting figures. So it seems there is a group for everything on any diecast car or brand. So to have a shop or to start a shop these days, I think it's you need to focus on a certain brand or a certain scale. You need to have patience, a good website. You need to be visible online. You need to pay a lot of advertising. So it's a different world than 10 years ago, but there's also a lot of opportunities. And there's a lot of customers who are new to my business in the last 5 years, and they do a very good job in Europe, or I don't know, maybe in the world, and they sell a lot. So it's completely different than 10 years ago. But with the 164, also a lot of young customers came in again. During the Corona time, a lot of people started to build again, the plastic kits. For 2 years, I sold a lot of plastic kits. And in the last few years, 5 years, also 164 made a huge comeback with all the brands.
Yep.
And that's also good for the young collectors, which are maybe collecting for the next 10 to 20 years. So a new crowd, a new customer base.
Okay. Well, in one way, that's encouraging, is that the next generation, I feel like people like Chuck and myself, we collected 164 just because they were the toys that we had when we were younger. And now, 20, 30 years later, we actually have some money to play around and buy the cars that we want for our collection. So there's always that cycle of collecting that you see. And you would be one to see that in person, just like you just mentioned.
Running a store like this and having that scale, that amount of floor space and showroom space, I imagine it's important to both keep it well supplied, but also be keeping an ear to the ground as to what the trends are, what people are buying, what people are interested in. So you've got all these different choices of diecasts, all these different scales. What are, besides just looking at the actual sales numbers, what are some of the ways that you keep tabs on what it is that people are interested in and what they want to buy?
Yeah, I'm famous for buying 100% of what I see. So I don't look at numbers. It's experience. I do look at quantities, of course. Not every model is the same quantities. Not every scale is the same quantity. But sometimes my wife says no more buying. It's the same as a collector almost, and no more buying. Warehouse is full or whatever. But I'm very famous for buying everything at the right price. Sometimes a little bit. So I have 10% in my warehouse, which is getting a little bit older. But normally I try to buy 100% of what I see, because at the moment for anything, we have a customer. But not in all the quantities. Not everything is 100 or 200 pieces. Some models are only a few pieces. Like the smaller racing brands, the expensive brands. You never know. But normally I like to buy everything, 100%.
My wife tells me the same thing, guys. No more buying. Can I dive into this, Chuck? When you said the car that got you back into collecting was sort of not the most exciting vehicle, Well, I have this one that I'm ready to review on my channel, and I think it might qualify as one of the ones that you're talking about.
I just bought one of those. I
a
just
Ford
got it from
Torino
Walmart.
Brougham. Yeah, 1974. Couldn't be any more gas guzzling American vehicle, but how amazing is it that we have it? And I bring it up because it's a Greenlight. A lot of our viewers love Greenlight, and a lot of our viewers, including us, would be surprised to know of Tom's involvement with Greenlight. Tom, share with whatever you want to share about your association with Greenlight in the past, and how the company is what it is today, maybe because of some of your involvement.
I was involved for around 10 years in Greenlight. Me and my partners bought it. I was the majority shareholder, and we bought it like almost 10 years ago. We grew the business where it is today. And we went for things. We had meetings, and we thought we can do it much better than the previous owners.
Right.
And I think we did, because in the last 10 years we went into Target, back into Walmart. We had the Toys R Us debacle, but it was one of our best customers.
Yeah, right.
But other customers jumped into the big gap, like Hobby Lobby. They went into the big gap, which was there because Toys R Us was out of business, and also worldwide. I'm the main distributor in Europe. And we made a lot of things, 143rd, 124 Hollywood. So a lot of lines are there now because, we had some ideas over the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
I just sold it 2 months ago.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Greenlight, before you all took over, like, was known as like an indie, like they sold IndyCar diecast, race car diecast. They had sporting goods, sporting memorabilia. It was more their thing. So it was kind of like a racing champions type brand that went and while it was under your team's helm, you really brought something that I loved collecting to the next level, which is Hollywood diecasts, cars based on movies and TV shows. And I never thought I'd see the day when the Riptide Corvette would be represented in diecast scale. I just thought that was so cool, that because it's smart too, because you get the people who are movie memorabilia collectors as well as the people who are diecast collectors and the people who grew up watching those shows. And the big thing that I love about your era of time at Greenlight is you introduced something that was almost non-existent before this, and that was the lift kits, the dioramas, and the wheels. That you were one of the first places that you could get them from, like, niche producers who made them themselves, or they ordered them from overseas. But in the US, if you were to go into a store, you would never ever see custom wheel sets for 1/64 scale, and that is so cool. And I'm curious how that side of the business came about.
If we were always talking about lines, to add more lines for mass market, so we can, and also for at the end for the collectors, for the hobby, what is missing in our line. And every year we wanted to increase the lines, and we also like to have a diorama theme. So some diorama stuff which you can sell over and over again, spare parts. So in the meetings we came up with spare parts, maybe some spoilers or some to make white bodies. But this was pretty simple because we have the Chevrolet, we have the Shelby, all the licenses we already had. So we just add some wheels and rim sets. That was pretty simple. And but about the Hollywood, that was always a good seller for me in the Erdl period. When Erdl started, we sold containers full with 118 Fast and the Furious at that time. The whole containers was just before the Greenlight time. So I always said, we need to make Hollywood, and being an American company, of course, Hollywood, America, IndyCars, that's all famous stuff, and you can make it over and over again. And there's a lot of evergreens.
Yeah, and it's great too, because a lot of American movies used classic American cars. So you already had the castings in your lineup, so you could do You can do the Charlie's Angels 74 Gran Torino, but you can also do the Dude's Gran Torino from Big Lebowski. And it's really clever. It's really smart. And the big thing that I loved about it, because I've been collecting Hollywood diecast since the Ertl days when they were doing the little Dukes of Hazzard sets and the little Smokey and the Bandit sets, and nobody really nailed it until Greenlight. Like, that actually were the right cars and had the right look to them. I mean, I always joke that the Cannonball Run ambulance that Ertl released is like one of the most ridiculous things ever. And Matchbox actually did it worse, but it was like a Ford van when it was a Dodge van in the movie. It was the wrong color and it said Cannonball Run on the top of it. Like, okay,
yeah.
We looked into the Cannonball Run license 5 years ago, but the Cannonball Run, you need Cannonball and a Run license, and then you also need all the different cars.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare. Like James Bond, it's a nightmare to have a James Bond because you need so many different. You need Aston Martin,
Lotus,
you need so many different cars. It's difficult for licensors and licensing.
Sure. Well, and that's the thing that we always talk about when we've had other diecast manufacturers on, is getting all the licenses, all the people to talk together. And that's got to be probably the biggest, I imagine that's one of the biggest nightmares of this. As I imagine once you get the okay, it's getting to the design part and all the production part. That's the fun part. But having to make sure, okay, well, we got to get, and God forbid you want to do Herbie the Love Bug. As a kid who loved Herbie growing up and always wanted to get toy Herbies, and it was almost impossible until Johnny Lightning did theirs in 2005, I think. But yeah. And
I was the importer for Johnny Lightning at that time. I imported the Johnny Lightning stuff. So that's why I was already always into 164. I loved the 164 because they were affordable.
Yeah.
So I always loved it. It was kind of a niche at that time.
Sure. Well, and it wasn't a premium thing here for a long time, too, because everybody always thought of them as just like Hot Wheels or Matchbox. And you run them down the track and the kids crash them and everybody was collecting the 124 or the 118th scale. You know, that's great until you run out of shelf space after 5 cars. In the space of 5 cars, 5 118th scale cars, you can put 40 or 50 164 scale cars and have room around them still. So yeah, that was the big appeal for me when I got back into collecting, was how good the castings had gotten. And because of brands like Greenlight and that causing other brands like Round 2 to really have to step up their game to match what Greenlight was doing, and then the European and the Asian brands, where I think it was always a bit more popular than it was here in the States, and that's finally starting to come over here. And I'm personally very optimistic about the hobby, especially here in the United States, because I got back into it. My 5-year-old daughter loves them. My 10 and 8-year-old nephews love them. They came over. We spent an hour going through all my diecast cars. We started building our own customs together. So I think that's great. The versatility of the car is so cool. But with having that kind of impact, and then as you've turned the company over and you've sold the company, what's next for Tom? Are you going to focus more on the store? Because that's quite the jump to be on that ride and then get off. So what's the plans looking ahead?
Yeah, but the ride we are having at Toms.nl with the wholesale in the Netherlands is also a good one. 4 years ago, I had a huge new building, the new store. So it's also a good ride. And yeah, you cannot focus on 2 things at the same time. And yeah, maybe when there was no Corona, we still had Greenlight, but during the Corona time, you cannot fly, you cannot talk to each other. So we went sideways a little bit, and that's why I sold it. I thought, okay, having a US company with Corona time is not the ideal thing. So let's focus more on our side, and let's find another partner for Greenlight. Now it's an Asian partner. They have a factory. So it's looking very well at the moment, I think, to move forward, to go up and make a lot of new things. They have a lot of new ideas, fresh new ideas again. And I think that's a good thing. Because there's a lot of competition in 164. Hot Wheels is making a lot of stuff with the real riders. Also direct. They do a lot of direct sales. Greenlight also started a little bit direct sales with Diecast Pub. That's also going to be more and more, I think. And there's a lot of other brands coming in the 164. I mean, the GT is doing well. Inno is doing well. Matchbox is making more and more. So 164 is looking very good. But we need to be careful that we don't make too much, because there's only so much. Also for 164, people only can spend so much money on their collection.
Right.
And I saw in the Nuremberg Toy Fair last week that there's a lot of 164 coming. Everybody's in 164 these days. But like 15, 20 years ago, everybody was in 143rd in Europe.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there was a lot of overstocks. And there was, it's getting too much. You can only spend so much, but it's looking good. Quality is great.
I agree.
Speaking on that, Tom, was there anything at the toy fair? And I'm looking forward to videos where people have gone to the toy fair. Since it will be a while since it happened when this airs, is there anything that really grabbed your attention? Anything that blew you away that you saw?
Not really.
Okay.
Yes.
Fair
yes.
enough.
Yes, the people were there. So it was good to see the customers. It was good to see suppliers, manufacturers. Every 5 or 10 minutes you saw somebody which you haven't seen in the last 3 to 4 years. So it was great being there. But we always had a booth there, a big booth, with Greenlight, with AT Collection, with my 3 companies. But this year we thought, let's not spend $20,000 on all these days. Just be there and talk to the customers. With the internet, a lot of things already. Corona, with Corona, we saw you can do a lot of things like now with Zoom. You can talk to people on Zoom. And it's only there to meet your customers, but not to see really new products. I like to see the manufacturers. But we can also do this in Hong Kong or China on a quiet day, not on a toy fair.
Right.
What grabbed my mind, what grabbed me was the Mini GT Formula 1 line, the new line Mini GT Formula 1.
Sure. Yeah.
That's going to be like, I think, $19.99 retail, US and euros. So it's going to be a competition for Spark. But its quality was great. So I think that's going to be a very good line. All these race and rally cars, Formula 1 from Mini GT.
Good. Well, shout out to Glenn Chow and his group over there. Glenn was a former guest on Diecast Breakdown. So good to hear that they are headed in the right direction.
But it's a difficult nut to crack. I hope somebody will make Le Mans cars, Le Mans winners in 164.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Le Mans winners, there's like Audis and Porsches and Ferraris, and there's a lot of castings. Some of the castings are already out there with Tarmac or Mini GT or Schuco.
Sounds like a Tarmac works.
Yeah, something like this, but just Le Mans winners with Le Mans license in a Le Mans packaging, and maybe something of the track or the famous Dunlop bridge. That's great stuff. 143rd is always selling, so I think that would be very cool in 164 as well. And more movie cars, famous cars. Interesting cars from the presidents or whatever. It's a lot of things still to make.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you bring that up and all the different brands because we just had a writer, Giles Chapman, on the show, and he wrote a book called Britain's Toy Car Wars. It was about Matchbox versus
Corgi
versus Dinky and
Lido.
And all these and how like they during the 60s and 70s the competition was so fierce, and it was this thing where the trend was really hot with diecast, and it seemed like there was nowhere to go but up, and then it all just kind of came crashing down. And I'm hopeful that won't happen with this new surge of interest, and I don't think it will, because like you said, it's a different world now. We can buy online, the barriers are a lot lower, and the technology and the ability to prototype and to get a car to market is so much faster than it was. But it's kind of interesting to see the parallels of that time where there was a lot of selection and it ended up becoming almost no selection because Mattel ended up scooping everything up. And now we've got this world where Mattel is kind of the old dinosaur of the group, and you've got all these new brands that are coming up with all these new and exciting and premium and alternate lines of experience for the adult collector. And still Hot Wheels is popular with the older folks too. I was in a store yesterday, and there was a guy that was in his 70s and he was digging through looking for the treasure hunts and the super treasure hunts because he had happened across 3 cases that they hadn't opened yet. So he was very excited, and I got to talk to him. But it's just interesting because it's a hobby that you can be 3 years old or 30 years old or 90 years old, and everybody has something. There's something from the wild and fantastical cars to the pop culture cars to the Hollywood cars to racing, and I think that's what makes this such a beautiful hobby, is that there are so few other hobbies out there that can span that kind of interest range and still bring people together. And I think that's what's really so cool about it. That's why we have this show, and that's why we love talking to folks like you. And I know as we're wrapping things up here, Tom, is there any message that you have that you would like to share with collectors or hobbyists or enthusiasts that you think
I
they should
just
be
want to
paying
ask you a
attention?
question.
Sure.
I just want to ask you a question. Where do you think the new collectors are being born? So where do you think a new collector starts these days? I think it's mass market. I think in mass market, or their dad, they see it in somebody in the family as a collector, or a flea market. So what do you think? What do you find at mass market or flea markets? Is normally the Greenlights, the Maestos, the Hot Wheels. So they start with these brands, and then slowly they go up, and they still collect the Hot Wheels and the Greenlights, but they still go up also to other brands online. David?
Yeah, I think that's the adult collector. The adult collector has the nostalgia and goes back, and then when they're at the shelf at Walmart and they look a little bit to their right and they see these other premium cars and they go, "What are these? Oh, I remember that show." I think that's how you awaken the older collectors is just getting in front of them. The younger collectors, the kids like my daughter and my nephews and niece, they watch a ton of YouTube videos about toys, and they kind of came into diecast collecting from the movie Cars. They collected a lot of the diecast cars from that movie, and now they're moving into more regular stock looking vehicles, not cartoon vehicles. But I think the appeal of this hobby is still going to be, it's going to be generational, and I think it's going to be through videos on YouTube, getting kids to, whether it's seeing a 5-second ad for a track or some kind of whatever, like to capture that young generation. They're watching
Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix as well, a series, TV series.
Sure. Yeah, they got a Fast and the Furious TV series, and they sell the toy cars as well. So, I think mass market is still a great way to sell directly to customers. I worked for a mass market business for a while in marketing, and we thought we were going to be all high tech and go internet only. And then we got featured on one episode of a show on HGTV by accident. And all of a sudden our sales went through the roof, and we started doing TV advertising. And that became our number one way of getting people in, was like the mass market is still a thing. I think the internet is still going to be the thing for most brands, especially with diecasts. I think you're going to do very well reaching the adult collector still with social media advertising. But for me, it was I saw the car on the shelf. I brought it home, and then I used to build model cars, the plastic ones, and I thought, I wonder if anybody does anything with 1/64 scale. And I found Bare Metal HW, he had like 300,000 subscribers in Jakarta Diecast Project, and he's got 1 million plus subscribers now. I think he's closing in on 2 million subscribers at this point. And just saw the incredible stuff that was being done with everything from just raw materials to 3D printing. And I was hooked. I was like, this is amazing. So I think the adult collector, of course, where the big money is at, it's getting the cars in front of them, when they're taking their kid to the toy aisle and their kid is looking at the Hot Wheels. That's how I found Greenlight again. I was with my daughter and we were looking in the toy section, and I was like, where are these over here? And I was hooked. So I think that mass distribution is still key. And then for brands like Greenlight and Auto World and M2, like that are still mass produced over here, And then that leads to searching online, and then you find out about your mini GTs or your tarmac works or your Shuko's, depending on what you're into. And then you can niche down into that, or even like the Para 64s, which are up and coming. I saw there on your site. We just had Adrian on the show, and he was great. And so
I wanted to mention that brand. I forgot. I knew I forgot one brand. That's Para 64 and Tiny. Yeah, there's also Tiny.
Yep.
Tiny
HK.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's an easy one for me. I blame Diecast Dude.
Yep.
And I blame you, Tom.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Video.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of those brands. And I tell you, one of my favorites, and I'm just going to plug them here, Norev. Where else can you get amazing French vehicles if not for Norev? So shout out to all you guys in Europe introducing Americans to Norev.
Yeah, Norv is good. But yeah, Norv is good.
All right. So 2 quick questions before we go. Will there ever be a Tom's Model Auto location in the United States?
And how do we work there?
Ooh. No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
No.
I was holding out hope. I had a 1% chance you would say maybe, but that's okay. I knew what was coming. And I forgot question 2. So we'll cut this part out. So Chuck, do you?
No, we're not. No, he's not going to make Greenlight make a Saturn for you, David.
Oh yeah. No, I didn't ask that.
That's the joke. Yeah.
I didn't ask that.
Yeah, I think that's great. Tom of Tom's Modelauto, thank you so much for being here. An absolute delight. We'll have to have you back on and chat again some more, but thank you so much for the time. We appreciate you being here, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, Joe.
That was a wonderful interview. Thanks again to Tom at Tom's Modelautos for joining us and giving us that little tick mark that says that we've interviewed the Greenlight team. So we've got manufacturers from all over the world now that have come on Diecast Breakdown. We're so grateful for that. We have a few more coming up just in the next few weeks. We're going to have Eddie Castro once again from Maisto is joining us. And we've got a couple of really cool cats from round 2 that are joining us that you will definitely not want to miss out. So be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can see when these videos come out. We are going back to doing the live shows in a few weeks here. We are really missing those, and we're looking forward to bringing those to you yet again. As always, I want to thank you for making it to the end of the video. And of course, I want to thank our patrons who keep this show going. If you want to know more about how you can support the show, you can visit diecastbreakdown.com, or you can click on the little join button at the bottom of this YouTube video and help support this project as it rolls forward. Again, thank you so much for being here. We've really enjoyed spending some time with you, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next one. So until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.
Thanks for listening to Diecast Breakdown. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend to listen in. Find Diecast Breakdown on your favorite social media platforms, or visit diecastmedianetwork.com to learn more about this and our other projects. Diecast Breakdown is a presentation of Flying Valiant and the Diecast Media Network.